Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next CTO Roundtable session. Let's do something different than last time. Can I get a morning, afternoon, or evening based on your local time in the chat window? Let's see. Okay, I don't see the chat window. Oh, there we come. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Okay, so today we're going to discuss a topic that's on many development leaders' minds. How do I keep my development team motivated? Especially now everyone is working remote. And good to see so many of you today, and we have a great panel. We have Knapp, Director of Product Development at college H.U.N.K.S from the United States. From the Netherlands, Jago, Philippens, Head of Engineering at TicketSwap. And Ilkka, our CTO at Smartum in Finland. So a great panel. My name is Gerbert Oude Velthuis. I'm the CTO of Travelia and General Manager of the software house in the Netherlands. So Matt, can you give us a short introduction about yourself and your company?
Sure. So yes, Matt, I've been with College H.U.N.K.S now for about 8 years. We are a local junk removal and moving company. So if you think about moving, that could be anything from you purchase a new place and you're looking to move locally within your community, or long distance across the country or quite a while away. So we handle a lot of logistics and shipping. We have a custom built CRM application that we manage internally that handles all of our scheduling of our customers. We have a mobile app that we use to handle service delivery, and we have a website that we use to provide pricing and quotes to customers online. So a lot of software development, a lot of projects going on, and happy to share some things that we've learned along the way.
Very good. And it's a franchising setup, correct?
That's correct. Yes, we're a franchise primarily based in US and Canada.
Yeah, okay, very good. Jago, TicketSwap was hit hard by COVID, and can you explain in a few sentences what TicketSwap does and what's your role within the company?
Yeah, so TicketSwap itself, it's a platform for fans to buy and sell last-minute access to shows they're dying to see. So being fan fanatical is at the core of our business. At the same time, we also work very closely with organizers to bring a lot of value to them. You're not lying. The business has been hit hard, but there are still events going on in the same way, and we're trying to figure out ways to work together with organizers, and we have some nice examples of that actually.
Very good.
To actually do events in a safe way. My background is in HR, linguistics, and AI. I've mostly been in transformation management for the last 10 years. I joined TicketSwap last February to help them grow to the next level, but then COVID hit and my job changed a bit. But it's still it's a good challenge. It's a great team of people, great product, doing wonderful things.
Very good, and good to hear that there's still events going on. Yes. So Ilkka, I remember visiting Finland years ago, and people had those paper coupons that they brought to lunch and got a free lunch for that. And I understand that you're making those digital, and I'm sure you do many more. So can you explain to the audience what Smartum does?
Yeah, because so Smartum is exactly that as you can describe. So we are basically offering fringe benefits for employees. And we have started like 25 years ago already, and came into the market with the paper vouchers, and especially back then, like specializing in the exercise vouchers, because like that's basically something that we as a company invented and like introduced to the market. And since that the assortment of the benefits, it has increased, and like all of these like basically are like tax compensated in Finland. And like along the way there has been like culture benefit also introduced, and massage and commuting benefits. So that's basically the setup that we have, and somewhat like 7 years ago we introduced the digital saldo also, and we have been like running that infrastructure on top of Visa so far. However, like 2.5 years ago when I joined the company, we renewed our payment strategy and came up with the need or like identified a clear need for the mobile payments and like moving more into mobile. So that has been like some of the, or like one of the like big things that we have been like doing in terms of transformation in the organization. And we launched our new mobile payments method a bit over a year ago. And since that, it has been like strongly growing, and because of the results, we decided that we are going to like move purely into mobile payments after this year. So like this is what has been ongoing in the organization, and at the same time we are kind of like renewing the business model itself quite drastically, and like just like onboarding our customers into our new product. So a lot of things going on. And like to mention a bit more, so the COVID situation, of course, like affects us also, because like we have like 25,000 venues in our network. It's the biggest network in Finland. So all the lunch places and culture venues and also exercise places have been, of course, like heavily affected. And now we are seeing the usage coming back up, because like we have the real-time analytics to see what is happening in the market. So it's really interesting. So yeah. Me, myself, I'm working as CTO, leading our team of 10 developers, and I've been in the business for over 10 years, first, or like mostly in like management consultancy, and like driving digital innovation and accelerating digital transformation, so to say.
Okay, very good. A lot of change happening in your company, so interesting. So let's go back to our main topic. Motivation, boosting motivation. So studies show that there are a few things that people get energy from in their work. That's, I think we all know it: autonomy, connection with colleagues, some call it purpose, some have 4 things, but mastery or learning new stuff. All of these energy sources are currently under pressure. Working from home was not our own decision. It was forced on us. Studies show that working from home improves productivity and innovation, but it also shows that when it was your own decision to work from home, productivity gain is significantly higher. And connection with colleagues is much more difficult via Zoom. Yeah. There's a study done in the US that some people suffer from Zoom fatigue. Nice word. It's challenging to interfere in discussions over Zoom, and reading someone's body language is also tough. Learning new stuff, everyone does that constantly from your colleagues. If you're around your colleagues, you learn a lot from them. That's problematic if you work from home, alone, remotely. Conferences are closed. Virtual is not yet a real good replacement. It's different. So how do you manage this and ensure that you keep your team getting the needed energy? Yeah? So what can we do as leaders to create the optimum circumstances? We also had 160 people overnight working remote. We gave them 100% freedom to decide what is best for their solution. We had people working from in the evenings. So obviously in collaboration with clients, etc., but there was a lot of flexibility there. So let's go to some questions. So can you provide an overview of your team setup and some specific issues you faced when everyone moved into a remote setup? Can I start with you, Jago?
Yeah, sure. At TicketSwap, we have several vertical product development teams. That means they have all the capabilities on board, from front end to mobile touchpoints to design, backend, and product management, all in one team. We also have a core team that focuses more on the financial domain, which is mostly comprised of backenders and a bit of product management. And they work together with some circle leads, tech leads, when they need other capabilities. And we have an ops team which is dedicated and obviously ops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're looking at the teams, most teams, well, actually all the teams have all the capabilities on board that they need to succeed. And that also means that all the rituals that they have in place are geared towards establishing what they need to succeed. If you need to involve people from other teams in there, then it becomes a bit harder in general. So that's what we try to ensure. One thing that we found is actually exactly what you described. If you look at TicketSwap as it was before COVID, it was already very remote friendly, which was nice, which helped us a great deal because the transition was fairly easy. But then at the same time, what you find is that all communication needs to be explicit, right? You can't have the implicit communication anymore. You don't have the implicit body language anymore. You can't simply overhear what another team is doing and perk your ears. Everything needs to become explicit. And that means that it takes a bit more energy and it takes a bit more time, and you will miss things and you will drop things. So yeah, for us, that was a challenge. And now we are fine-tuning it a bit again, as we have been doing over the past couple of months, and focusing again on which rituals do we have, what is the scope, who is in there, who needs to be in there. And getting that straight, setting that straight is just the most important thing, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, very good. And Matt, any specific things that that your team was facing, and how's it set up?
Sure. So overall, our company has really focused these last few years on disaster recovery and business continuity. About, I would say 2 years ago, we brought in a specialist to really focus on what would happen if a catastrophic event happened and our office wasn't accessible, whether that could be natural disaster, could be something like this. So luckily, we built up a lot of systems and practices to allow us to continue to do things outside of the office environment, setting up VPNs, setting up remote monitoring and practicing, setting up really tools to help continuing education as well. So we felt like we were pretty prepared going into this, which was fantastic, especially because our main operation at our headquarters is a 200-seat call center. So making sure that they're still answering the phones was vital and crucial to us. As far as the technical team, we have a team of in-house developers. We also work with Software House externally for development of our front-end applications and design. And that has been great because not only has our internal team kind of been able to work at home and create that environment that works for them, we also had some challenges with, just that dynamic of what is it going to be like for someone working from home versus someone in the office. You don't get that hallway talk, you don't get the water cooler chat, you don't get the cultural impact. So we've done a lot of really cool things to really push the needle on the culture side, because that's so important for us. We know that team members who feel like we're a family versus a job are going to be a lot more invested. Their return on their time is going to be a lot higher. So that's been a big focus for us. That wasn't something we initially thought of when we talked about working from home or going remote. We thought of it in a natural disaster capacity, and we figured we'd be back in the office within a month. But now looking at where we are today, we know that this is a very real future. And this is something that we need to look at more long-term. So from a technology perspective, we were there, but really establishing that culture, I think that was the big opportunity for us. I'm excited to share more about what we did from the culture perspective.
Yeah, and we'll get some questions about it later, so cool. And Ilkka, is your team still working remote? And
Yeah, we are. Like mostly. Some of us are returning to the office, and like especially me. We just had a baby in May, so I've like spent a great deal of time at home, and like we had like long summer holidays as we do in Finland. So so when the work restarted, I like immediately said that like I'm going to go to the office, and I'm definitely like pro office, so to say, that like sometimes it's like really like important to like address these things that Matt was listing, like having all those like water cooler talks and like seeing people, and like also like feeling that vibe better, like between the discussions among the people. So in that sense, like it's really nice to be here, and like many of us are like again visiting. However, like there are like some difficulties, of course, like because let's say that like you have small children and they can't go to the daycare. so you need to stay home and like take care of them. So that kind of things are blocking some of us coming to the office still, even though like people themselves would be like totally healthy. So yeah.
No, I get that indeed. And yeah, thanks, Mark, for reminding me. Mark is monitoring the questions. We, you know, the panel is here for questions from your side. So if you have questions, there's way more interesting than my questions. So please come up with them and send them, and Mark will make sure that I get them. So talking about flexibility and things like that. So how in this strange period, how flexible are you towards your team? Do you have block hours or mandatory meetings or things like that? Matt, can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have definitely been a lot more open and more flexible during this time. During the office hours, one of the key things was that in-person communication. We had a lot of in-person meetings where we really needed people to be there from that 8 to 5 block. With the working from home situation and remote, it works a little bit easier because now when people are at home, you're not necessarily working 8 hours. You might be working 10, 12 in some days and not even know that you're working. So we try to set up that time where we say our meetings really need to happen between this time. But as far as productive work and what you're needing to do to accomplish your sprint, the tasks that you need to get done, those can happen outside of that working block hour. So anything that we're doing as far as recurring meetings, though, like our daily meetings, retrospectives, and just same page one-on-one meetings we do on a weekly basis, those are all happening during those block hours because it's important. You don't want to, take over someone's night or take over their weekend. Yeah. But if there is that time that works best for them, again, kind of what Ilkka was saying, there's a lot of, your employees that are looking at having different situations going on at home. They may have, a pet that needs to be taken care of, and their significant other might be out and you need to take care of that, or a kid, or you never know what someone's going through at home. So being able to be flexible will allow you to really come off like you care about your employees, and you should care about your employees. Ultimately, their success is going to be your success as well.
Absolutely. Jago, anything to add from your side?
Yeah, well, you have to have some mandatory meetings, right? I mean, if you're talking about organizational meetings, all communication needs to be explicit. So that means that as an organization, you're going to need some mandatory meetings.
Yeah.
But obviously, you're going to try to keep them to the minimum, keep them as short and to the point as possible, because you're basically taking everybody's time. And if you can, what we do and what I generally advise is start of week, end of week. And that also ensures that people know like the week has started. And the week
how do you do that? So do you have special meetings for that or so?
Within the organization at large, we start each week with a Monday morning meet, which is half an hour at most, where people are apprised of whatever happens in the organization from the different leads or the different people and teams. And each month ends with a monthly. Oh, sorry, I'll try to speak a bit louder. Sorry.
Yeah.
The month ends with a monthly, which we also try to keep a bit short. But there we present the numbers for that month, what has happened that month. We do MVP awards in that meeting as well. For the engineering team itself, we have something called Discovery Days, which is 10% of your time devoted to innovation and exploration. Always happens on a Friday. The other Friday, we end the day with a product demo. So basically, we always, put a cap on the week. Ensure that people, start the weekend.
Yeah, good.
As Matt said, it's very tempting, very easy to work too long when you work from home. So capping the week really helps in that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That the diverting the home and work life it's way more difficult now. So yeah. So if we look at the office, and Ilkka, you already said something about it, and I would like to get some view from the audience here. So how do you see this after COVID? Will you have an office? Will you want to go back to the situation that everyone is in the office always? Especially since, at the software house, our experience is that it's better to have a full remote team than a partial remote, partial office team, because you have these water cooling meetings where implicit decisions are taken and things like that, and not always the remote team is part of that. So let's ask the audience about, and I'm trying to share my screen again, about this first. So if you can start up the poll, that would be appreciated. Okay, so here you see a question, if you can answer that. Okay, so thank you for that. Let's see what the outcome is of this poll. Okay. Okay, wow. This is part-time home office. So everyone likes to work from home. So what did you develop policy on that already, Ilkka, or how do you see that going forward? You were saying I'm in favor of going to the office, but how do you see that for your team and the company at large?
Yeah, so not only COVID, but like we have had like really like flexible remote working policies before this situation already, and okay, so I'm like really pro office as you heard, but like as far as I've heard, this has like also like a recent these thoughts among the people that like people feel like that they want to be more working remotely, and by all means, like from our perspective, like we totally allow that to the people, and like having that freedom of choice, like how to work, and yeah.
Cool. Very good. And Jago, you already said it, that you already had this policy of working remote was okay, etc. Do you foresee more people going to be remote, or what's your opinion?
Yeah, I foresee quite a number of people making use of the flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're in the same room, it's going to be more effective to communicate with each other, right? But for some people, the flexibility is really valuable. I know I myself, yeah, I kind of like it working from the office partly and working from home partly. But I usually spread it out on the same day. Not right now, as I'm in a sort of quarantine, but normally that's how I like to do it. And I think that will go for a lot of people. And that's fine. That's good.
Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, I'm used to work from home, I don't know, 10 years already. And but it's difficult. Sometimes you would like to go to an office, have these chit chats and water cooler talks and things like that. So, yeah.
Can I say one more thing about it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the one big thing is that if you have people who are working from home, people who are in the office, FOMO is real, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that situation, then you need to make sure that the people who are at home are not actually missing out on essential communication. Yeah,
important thing indeed. Matt, anything to add from your side here?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we've talked about for the company at large really has been what types of conversations are conducive in a Zoom environment versus an in-person environment. And I think that what we've seen in the studies really are, if you're having a conversation that could come off as top down in our organization, we don't like to be that way, where we're giving instruction or kind of demanding things out of our employees. So when it comes to conversation that might go down a more hard conversation, things like quarterly reviews or giving critiques and feedback that may not necessarily be positive, it's better to have that in person. There's a little bit more of that emotional connection when you're having that. So I think a good blended environment is going to be the way that we will ultimately go once it's safe to do so, just to really allow us that flexibility on those different types of conversations that have to be had. And I think that that's going to be important for us, is figuring out that good balance, because not only are there going to be employees that don't want to come back to the office, that want to work from home full time, but there's going to be employees that want to be at the office all the time. So how can we best cater to both of those to really make that management relationship effective?
Yeah.
Very good. So
If I may also like comment on that, so I agree like strongly with Matt about this like important discussion, and like discussion that could go like to wrong direction, and like they're like easily like miscommunication in certain topics. Also like I feel strongly about like making important decisions in the team, and like having the importance of like being face to face, because like then like everyone really gets to have their say into the decision. However, like me myself, I've learned something because like I'm like a really I have been really a lot involved in the service design. So I've always believed that like we need to have the workshops face to face. But like when we learned, like when this situation came and we started using Miro, I don't know if you know the tool.
yeah.
But like it's awesome for the workshops, and like I've been like facilitating like hundreds of workshops, so to say. So like I was like really surprised how well you can actually like grasp the feeling of like working together when you're using this kind of a tool. So I'm like totally open for the change also in these terms.
And that's a good leeway into. I've got a question from Andrea Sandro here. Any tools you're using to facilitate remote communication? So Miro is one. Any other tools that you started using after we went fully remote, or?
Well, we tried a couple, but Miro stands out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a good advice.
Yeah, you can use it for whiteboarding, you can use it for ideation, you can use it for event storming, you can use it for agile games. It stands out.
Yeah, and especially like as I was referring to service design. So when you have those canvases as PDFs, so you can like directly import those to the Miro, and like then like add the post-its on top of that. So this is no paid advertisement to be clear, but
no
like,
one has shares here.
I'm like really I'm really a fan.
Yeah. Okay. Good to hear. So let's if you look at the first pillar that we talked about, autonomy. So can you provide some insights in how autonomous your teams are? Are they self-organizing? Are they, so what is the level? Can I start with you, Jago? Do I do always?
Sure.
I don't know.
I will. I've adjusted some mic settings. I hope it's a bit better, and I will just shout very loudly.
It's perfect now, Jago.
All right. So yeah, teams need autonomy. They do. People need autonomy. But teams also need structure, and people also need structure. They're just like real humans. We need both freedom and we need boundaries in order to thrive. So what you need to do is you need to provide a framework for people to exercise autonomy in a way that is conducive to healthy productivity, staying sane, staying communicative, and still being productive about it all. So what we want to do is get together with teams and tell them like, okay, you need certain meetings, you need to align on certain things, you need to discuss certain things. How do you want to do it? Which things are bottlenecks for you? Here are the rituals that you can use for it. We can coach you in how to do these rituals, but how you put them in your timeline, that's up to you. And also how you scope them is up to you. Now, we offer some advice as an organization saying, okay, it's probably good to involve some stakeholders here. It's probably good to have these people on board here. It's probably good to do grooming with the three amigos and rotate engineers into these rituals as well. But it's really up to the team to basically fill in the blanks, to create their own timeline. So they have ownership, but they do also have the boundaries and the structure in place to get the results that they need to get.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So Ilkka, from your side, how does that work?
Yeah, I think like, yeah, I think Jago pretty much said it all already. Like that was like really, really good comment. And yeah, it works pretty much the same for us also. Also, and like we have a high level of autonomy and freedom of making decisions within the team. We provide this kind of like coaching more from the organization side and from the leadership, that like what kind of approaches can be taken, and like how to get better in like for example like leading projects or that kind of things. But then from there it's up to the team to actually decide.
So it's interesting that you say that, and so Matt, how do you see who decides what technology to use then? That's a big decision if you talk about that. You know, is that the team? Is that, I guess the answer is together. But
Yeah, I mean, I think really it starts with openness and transparency of the company goals, knowing where the organization needs to go as a whole. And then from there, it's how can we get there? And that could be anything from what the teams might be working on. Of course, it's a collaborative environment. It's not the teams doing their own thing without anyone knowing what's happening. So that also, I think, it is that's too much autonomy. I think that those barriers are important, but it's really that where do we see the organization needs to go and how can we get there? And that could dictate the tools as well. I mean, typically for us, we do work with a common tech stack, but in some cases there may be the project that comes up that isn't necessarily aligned with the tech stack that we're using. So the team has that autonomy. And what we expect is just for them to explain the why. So you're going off of the beaten path here, and what is the reason for that? And I think that it goes back to that, having those conversations and knowing what's going to get us to that end point, and why do you think that this way is better? And when people can describe that to me, I have full respect for that, and we're completely open to exploring new tools or exploring new ways to do things. But as long as we all have that common goal in mind, I think that's the important piece.
Very good. Yeah, indeed. So, Jago, you were saying that you have an ops team, and I'm always interested in if someone says, I've got a separate ops team. Because if you look at it, autonomy comes with responsibility. And, one of the examples there is who is going to be called out of bed if the system goes down. And so is that in your case the ops team?
We have an alerting system in place, so yes, the ops team is alerted. Then again, so are some of the founders, and so am I. Okay. We're looking at optimizing it a bit. We want to share the responsibility a bit. I personally believe that senior engineers should have a bit of ownership there as well, and also keep in mind that being called out of bed is not always such a bad thing. You can, in Europe at least, you're obliged to give people a good reward for something like this. Yeah. And people do appreciate that. And sometimes it is merely a matter of acknowledging something before you go back to bed and say, okay, I can start my day a bit later because I was, called out of bed. So, and some people also enjoy that. That said, you need to have that wide responsibility. With a lot of, which requires also a lot of trust. So we are looking at how we can expand that. Right now, the pool of people being woken up is small and expensive. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And Ilkka, of course, it never happens, but if it happens, who is being called out of bed in your case?
Yeah. So exactly. And actually, like our goal is to run this business in a way that like this would never happen. And in terms of like, of course, like we can't avoid all the like the technical issues, but like we have been able to like mitigate all the risks to the very minimum, and like we haven't had any like major like technical issues actually after refactoring our system, and it has been like really successful, like really successful work together with TSH, by the way. But yeah, so So like, however, and like the other side of this is that like usually any of the mission critical systems are not being used during the nighttime. So like it's like in that sense like a really nice situation for us that like mostly the mission critical issues occur during the office hours anyway. So this is basically like the setup where we what we have. However, like sometimes when something like more critical has happened, like typically that has been something that like our certificates have expired or something like that. So we have the alert system also in place, and like if this has happened during the weekend, so like the team has been usually like really proactive on this and starting to investigate and like organizing around solving the issue as soon as possible. So in that sense, like it has been like working really well for us. Yeah. And like exactly what Jago said, that like it's to some extent like responsibility for like a more senior developers and of course like the leadership team ourselves, but like yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you. Matt, another question. So how do you distinguish between people that like autonomy and people that like to be more instructed? I mean, if you look at studies, 60% of the people really like to be instructed. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, so we handle a lot of that actually during the hiring process. So one thing that we do is we describe our company culture during that interview process very specifically. So we really are looking for the autonomous person when we're going through that hiring process. Part of our company culture to really get those forward-thinking people with drive. That's really what we're looking for. So a few ways that we can do that. One is just being really transparent in the interview process and saying, you know, this is what our expectation is. But we also leverage personality assessment tools as well. We use the predictive index score, which will ask kind of a lot of questions that require the user to pick whether you are this or that, and the this or that are both things that are great. So it really opens up the shell of the person to figure out what's going on inside. And that's one tool that we use so that we know when someone's applying for a position, how they need to be managed based on the book answer. And then we have a direct conversation as well. So if there's someone that fits outside of our typical mold, when they're coming on board, it's a direct conversation about what that PI score tells us, how we think that they should be managed, and does that align with how they want to be managed. So it's a very personal conversation, but it's a very important one to be able to set up the foundation for that new hire or for that person on an ongoing basis, because that might change too. The PI is a great tool for the beginning, but you know, over time they may develop more skills. They may, may work differently over time. So it's not only a one-time conversation, but an ongoing conversation that we have as part of our quarterly reviews as well, where we discuss, hey, how are things going? What's the 360 feedback? How are we doing as management? How are you doing as an employee? So those are the two ways that we really handle that, both from a onboarding perspective, but then a long-term or ongoing perspective as well.
Very good, very good. Jago, anything to add to that?
Yeah, actually. First of all, I really liked your addition of saying, well, this is a temporary thing because it's always it's a snapshot. And people do change, people do evolve and all that. The other thing is that I think it's good to have both on your team. I think the worst thing that can happen to a team is false harmony, where people don't disagree for the sake of what they then think is harmony, but it really isn't harmony. People need to disagree. People need to know that other people think differently. It challenges us. It helps us grow. It helps us evolve. So for a team, it is actually really good to have people on board who thrive more on structure, as well as people who thrive more on chaos. These people, they challenge each other, and sometimes that means that there can be some disagreement. But you know, that's a good thing. Yeah. Keeps it sharp.
Very good. Thank you. So the difficult questions in that line is always, you know, and you talked about it, Ilkka, is should everyone be involved in design meetings and decisions? Can become very expensive. and in time and money. So how do you handle that, Ilkka, the balance between time, money, and involvement?
Yeah, definitely. This is a difficult one, indeed, and I see that like there are kind of like two approaches to this, and we have been practicing both of them, and the first one being that like everyone is invited always to all of the meetings, and then it's communicated that it's not mandatory to attend these meetings, but it's more like based on if you feel that this is important to you and like you would need to be involved in this decision making. So then it gives like more responsibility for like evaluating the importance of the meeting and the topic for you personally. And like of course like the other approach is always like being considerate of like who needs to be involved in this kind of a decision, and then like saving time from all the others. However, of course like sometimes this leads into a situation where someone feels like left out from the decision making that like they wanted to be a part of. But it's always balancing out like between these options, and as said, like we've tried both, and like I don't have like a clear answer which one would be the right one, but I think like these can be tried in everyone's organization.
Okay, very good, thank you. So Jago, you would like to add something?
Yeah. Sorry.
I see you raising your finger, so I think you would like to add something. Yes.
Sorry for saying a lot, but I believe efficiency is the enemy of progress. I mean, one of the things that is really inefficient is pair programming, for instance, right? Take two developers there on one machine, and only one pair of hands is typing. You know, on the surface of it, that seems really inefficient. Seems like a waste of time, but in the end, you save a lot of time on alignments. You save a lot of time on bugs. You know, the focus on efficiency, I get it. But I would always advise look at what is effective more than what is efficient.
Yeah, interesting. Good remark, thank you. So Matt, you work with a remote team, and also I got a question from Arjen here, which is the same. So you work with a remote team from the software house, and how do you handle autonomy then? So how do you ensure not to micromanage, but give trust? And you know, with a remote development team from a separate company, that might be a little bit more challenging or not. So, you know, how do you see that?
Yeah, so I think for us, we started the project from the beginning with establishing, again, the goals of the project. What are we looking at accomplishing? So we bring in users from our side, so that could be, you know, a call center agent who's answering the phones. It could be a service delivery person who's actually working with the customer on their move. So we want to involve the users from the beginning. We really work to establish those user flows, and so we actually do bring in the developers at this point, because what we found is if the developers aren't involved from the beginning, you pay for that same time in refinement meetings. So that's what's worked best for us with our developers. So that really is how we drive that autonomy. So from the beginning, the developers really involved in creating the requirements and creating the design and helping structure what we're looking for. We don't come with a fully fleshed out idea. Sometimes, and a lot of times, the developers have ideas. And I think that's really, you know, why that 80-20 or that 90-10 rule, where, you know, you give the developers that kind of creative headspace, that allows for a lot of really great ideas to come through. So we do that through really establishing just what the overall goal is, and then allowing the developer, the designer, everyone that creative freedom and creative ability during the process from start to finish. And that might not necessarily mean that we all agreed on the requirements and there's no more creative thinking after that. Sometimes time changes. Sometimes things change because we all agree that this is the right way to do something. The right way may not be the fastest way. So I think that's one way we enable that freedom, enable that creativity, and really help drive the autonomy as well. Everyone feels their investment in the project, and they're invested for the project to succeed.
Yeah, very good. So time is flying. That's that's good. So if you look at connection between people in this remote setup that we're living in, you know, a lot of companies do things like water cooler Slack channels and you know, working on open source projects. Our DevOps team uses they talk a lot in the office, and they now use Discord, a chat and VoIP application developed for gaming, which you know, they now use to continuously talk to each other. So how do you guys do that, Ilkka? Do you have special things set up to keep people connected and motivated?
Yeah, probably like we have increased at least, for example, the Slack activity quite a lot. For example, like when we win a sales case, so making it visible on the Slack and celebrating it there together with everyone, and also one something that people have been doing during this period of time. So they have had these lunch Slack calls that like everyone gets to join during between 11 and 12 o'clock and have lunch at home and like discuss freely together. So these has been some things that we have been like doing so to say like online, and we spend like this is our regular practice, but in our team weeklies we don't like focus that much into the work related stuff only, but like do everything like discuss like less official stuff also and share like what is going on in the personal life and that kind of things, and that's basically like also like the purpose of those calls, not to go through like what I have been doing like during the past week, because like that's more like a team meeting stuff, and should be more like handled there. And regarding like more like physical things, so we have actually like sent out like gear like working gear to the employees, displays, tables, chairs, that kind of things, and like a couple of like small surprises also here and there when there has been like some like successes in the day-to-day work. So these kind of things we have been doing.
Okay. Jago, anything additional from your side?
No, it's yeah, that's some great stuff in there. Of course, we have the organizational rituals. We have the always on channels. We have Slack in place. I really love the suggestion of Discord. We also send people something sometimes, you know, for special occasions. It just so happens there were a lot of babies born within the organization. Let me see. Yeah, like I said, we have the rituals in place, like the product demos. We have the discovery days together. You know, that's the stuff. Like doing some stuff together, which is fun, which is good, which is not all about work. Start your conversation with "Hey, how are you?" like instead of diving straight in. You know, yeah,
Okay.
a little.
So Matt, you told me that you had wear special heads day or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. So luckily we benefit from, we actually have a culture team as part of the larger organization. So we get some benefits kind of passed down to our team from that. So we do virtual coffee every week. We have an hour set aside in the morning, early morning hours for anyone to gather, have coffee. We do a daily meeting with a larger organization, and in that meeting, we have themed meetings as well. So if there's a national holiday, it might be wear your red, white, and blue gear to, we call it the huddle meeting. We have themed huddles for have your Zoom background be a picture of your most favorite vacation. So just, you know, fun things like that that are not only, you know, able to express that creativeness and have that fun culture, but you learn a lot about people. So, you know, what picture you put as your background can tell a lot about someone. You know, their favorite vacation might have been some charity work that they did, or, you know, a connection with their life back home from where they're originally from. So there's a lot that you can learn. Another thing that we did that's really cool is at the beginning of any meeting where we have more than 3 people in the meeting, we do a required icebreaker. And so what that is, we have a virtual system where you can go in and click a button and it comes up with a random icebreaker question. And that could be anything from what was your first car to, just what is your favorite color and why? And try and convince everyone here that that favorite color should be the right favorite color. So fun things to kind of start the meeting. And then with your direct report, we do the check-in as well. So it's every time you have that same page, we call it same page meeting. We ask, how are things going for you? What can we do to improve, your working situation? So we benefit from that larger culture teams. There's a lot of cool things that we do, but those are a few.
Very good. So I get a remark from Floor Ploeg. She says that I can suggest a game of Scribble. It's an online game with colleagues. Short and simple, very fun. Who knows?
Good suggestion. Good suggestion. Fun game.
So something else, and I'm skipping some of the questions here because of time. We have a good discussion. So, do you, if you talk retrospectives, how do you see a retrospective helping motivating your people who wants to start? Jago.
Well, I think retrospectives are good, but they're also one of the riskiest rituals in your arsenal because they can contribute to demotivating your team very easily. So if you don't do retrospectives the right way, get help. If you notice they're demotivating, get help, because they're very important for your team. So what I generally advise, and actually we had a whole conversation with one team about it last week, is okay, if you want to do a retro, make sure you spend the first 5 minutes on ideation. Like, what are the issues that you want to discuss? Then take your next 5 minutes and figure out how to hone it down, how to group it up a bit, to target the conversation. And then spend the next 5 minutes on selecting the top issue. And then spend the rest of the 45 minutes on that one issue. There might be more issues on there. They might all deserve attention. But you can only handle a top issue at a time. So really hone it down to that top issue and then use those 45 minutes to get some smart goals, some goals that you can achieve, some goals that will actually help you. And then in your next retro, which will be either, at the end of your next iteration, which is next week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, however long your iterations are, then you'll tackle the top goal of that iteration. And then over time you improve.
Yeah, very important. That it's an important thing, but risky. Prepare well. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And in line of that, you could say, making mistakes and not doing things well. If you look at a project manager's role or a scrum master's role, it's very often to prevent making mistakes. Prevent mistakes from happening. But on the other side, people learn from making mistakes. Ilkka, if you look at that, what's your opinion? Should we give the room to make mistakes, or should we focus more on preventing those mistakes to happen and things?
Yeah, I'm like definitely on this one again, like pro mistakes. So like we are really into like a failing fast and like experimenting things and everything like that. So I would kind of like turn this around in a way that like I feel like project managers made responsibilities to create this kind of like safe environment for the team to actually make the mistakes and like make them as fast as possible and like learning from the results and that's how I see it and yeah, it's really important for the like this kind of like healthier environment of like promoting the experimentation and like moving forward fast.
Yeah. I'm sure it's also a balance, but it's you want the big mistakes not to happen, maybe. But
of course, yeah, exactly. That's something that has been like discussed in the organization also. That like well, like it's nice to experiment, but like when you're like supposed to like make the significant goal in the Masters League. So then you don't want to like do any kind of like experiments. And like that's exactly how it is. Like when you're like experimenting, like experiment small, and then it's like safe to do. And when you're like doing something large, so like hopefully you have learned from those like small mistakes, and then you're like prepared to do the big decisions then and get it right like for the like on the first time, so to say.
Very good, yeah. So I'm jumping a little bit here, sorry for that, but Matt, how do you look at task shifting? And what I mean with task shifting is really moving people around from department to department or project to project deliberately, not because the project is coming to an end, but just deliberately giving them an experience outside of their comfort zone and normal work and things like that. Do you guys do that? And what's your experience?
Yes, so I think we do that a lot more with my internal team. So my internal team focuses a lot more on the business logic side and working with our internal users to understand requirements. And a lot of examples of that, and I think this goes back to that autonomy is one thing that I've really given my team is the ability to focus on different projects at once. So we have a feedback collection system that we distribute to our entire organization where you can go and leave feedback about different products. You can also upvote different product or different feature requests as well. So within that, we kind of have a framework of what the users want. And I think ultimately that's one key thing. Now, of course, there's company objectives as well that may not be necessarily in that system, but shifting from project to project or focus area to focus area is important because I think it helps to reduce that fatigue. If you're working on the same project all day, every day, you can kind of get a little jaded, in your view of the project because now you're in it all the time and you don't get that fresh perspective. So by taking someone from another project or another focus area and having them have that fresh perspective, it could be, a design you're working on and you bring in a second designer just to take a look and kind of fact check or look at what their progress is. That's a great way to get that fresh perspective and improve the overall product without, having kind of that tunnel vision that you might have when you have a single contributor working on something.
Yeah, no, very good. I'm a strong believer in that. So, Jago, if you had no limitations, money, time, organization, whatever, is there something that you would like to do to boost motivation for your development team?
Yeah, unlimited education budget is number one. So anything you want to pursue, you can pursue with support. Second one is healthy lunch for everyone wherever they are. Lunch is incredibly important. Provide a channel for people to have lunch together. Provide lunch to people if you have no limitations, and maybe some snacks and drinks for the Fridays. But no, education is number one without a doubt. Healthy lunch is definitely a close number two.
Yeah, very good. Ilkka, anything to add from a Finnish perspective on that?
I don't know, like that was like really good answer. And like with our lunch benefit, it's easy to order like good healthy lunch to your home also nowadays. So like definitely I'm on board with Jago on the lunch part also. Very
good. So before we go to the questions of the audience, would like to talk about another interesting webinar we'll run the 6th of October. It's a month ago, we published State of Frontend 2020 report. Don't know if you saw it already, but the report is based on a survey of 4,500 front-end developers around the globe. I would say it's the biggest and most up-to-date source of knowledge on front-end development trends now. We invited several experts that will discuss this report. If everything is right, you will get a subscribe link in the chat window now or soon. So enough commercials. Let's go to the questions. So an interesting one, and I'm wondering who has an. I'll take another one here. So I hope I say this correctly, your name, Forgan Dixon. How do you handle professional networking and recruiting remotely? I'm finding it much harder to recruit good developers without conferences, user group, etc. So who's in a hiring mode at the moment? None of
We
you,
actually are,
you are,
but like
okay.
yeah, this is again a like difficult one because like we typically run 2 to 3 rounds of interviews when like doing the recruitment process, and how we have done it now is actually that like we do one of the interviews, 1 or 2 remotely, but like then we do actually like one face to face, and it's just like one of these like mandatory things that we have decided that like we just need to do because it's for the both parties. It's much easier to get the actual like feel of like how it would be working together actually when you're having that like a discussion without any like these virtual tools. But again, like this is not that good of an answer. So please, like if Matt or Jago, if you have like any like more kind of like insights into this.
That's okay. And you know, I'm sorry, but we're past the hour already, and I've got more questions here, and I will try to send them to you to get them answered for the people that would be appreciated, I think. I would really like to thank you again, Matt, and Jago, and Ilkka, and for your insights were really valuable, and you know the fact that we're running through the time is a proof of that. So was an interesting discussion. Cannot physically give you a gift, so as normally there is a gift dropped in your inbox a few minutes ago, if it's correct. Hope you enjoy it, and thanks again for your support, Ilkka, Matt, Jago.
Can I have one question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see a lot of good questions in the Q&A. Will we get an opportunity to answer them offline?
Yes. So I will send them to you, and I will orchestrate that it gets to the people and things like that. Yes, yeah, nice. That would be great. Perfect. So thank you, and with this we end the CTO Roundtable session, and hope to see you in a month, guys. So thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.